Good morning. Welcome in the name of Christ. Great to see you this morning. No matter who you are, where you've been on life's journey, you are welcome here. And speaking of welcomes, it is particularly great to have Matt Morella behind the piano today. And he, of course, is the grandson of Al and Bonnie Toll. And you orchestrated it right, Matt. You've got a whole cheering section right in the front row. So his mom, Jen, and Scott is here as well. So very proud of their offspring. And we're just so glad to have. And you might want to take a look at the front of the bulletin. If the face of the person on the front of our bulletin looks a little familiar, it's a fellow by the name of Matt Morella. And he is playing that piano in Carnegie Hall. So we feel so fortunate to have Matt with us. Kathy and Mike are away this weekend. And so not only is Matt going to do the special music, he's going to do everything that Kathy normally does as well. So we're very, very grateful for his presence. So glad you're with us. Welcome back.
Please join me in a call to celebration. Freedom.
We say we want it.
We declare we want it.
But we don't seem able to define it.
Grant us insight into freedom, O God.
Grant us the desire to discover it and offer it. Amen.
Ways of grace,
join me in our unison opening prayer. Lord, we hear the proclamation, let freedom reign. We would like to hear the ring of freedom, but we're not always sure what that ring sounds like. Ring, O God, that note of freedom, that we might hear it, recognize it, and extend it. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. before the service that this would be a work in progress. Can you imagine when he has finally progressed? Holy smokes. That was great, Matt. Thank you.
Oh, that was wonderful. Absolutely.
Wonderful. There, I remembered to turn it on this time. Good morning. Good morning. I'll be reading today from Galatians chapter 5, verses 13 to 15 from the Jerusalem Bible. And just a quick little history about this letter from Paul to the Galatians. He was pretty ticked off with them. They were having a lot of infighting. The Jews and the Christians were getting together, and they'd compromise on some things, and on other things they wouldn't, and they'd battle it out. And one would say their way was right, and the other would say their way was right. And an example of one of their biggest problems was to circumcise or not to circumcise. That is the question. So based on things like that, Paul wrote this letter to the Galatians with, believe it or not, a bit of sarcasm in his letter. You know, I didn't even know they had sarcasm then. And so he really, was hitting at them and trying to tell them, well, about freedom and liberty, that they had that, but only to a certain point. They were to obey God and Christ and follow Christ's theology. My brothers, you were called, as you know, to liberty. But be careful, or this liberty will provide an opening for self-indulgence. Serve one another, rather, in works of love, since the whole of the law is summarized in a single command: love your neighbor as yourself. If you go snapping at each other and tearing each other to pieces, you had better watch, or you will destroy the whole community. May God bless this reading of his holy word.
He was only 39 when he said it. And yet it seared the people that were listening to him at the time and the people that heard about it. And 200 years after, more than 200 years after, it still absolutely has this clawing tug on our hearts too. I'm referring to the quote of a fair-skinned, red-headed fellow by the name of Patrick Henry, who said words that will be familiar to you. He said, "I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death." And I'll tell you, you only have to pick up a newspaper, or you turn on the news on your TV, or you watch it on your computer or your iPhone to know that this whole thing about freedom, about liberty, is absolutely in front of us every single day, every single moment. A minority wanting freedom from discrimination based on the color of their skin. A woman wanting freedom based on discrimination on the basis of gender. A blue collar or a white collar person wanting freedom from discrimination on the basis of education or the lack thereof, or how much dough they have in the bank, or the lack thereof. The gay person wanting freedom from discrimination on the basis of orientation, an immigrant wanting freedom from discrimination on the basis of nation, of origin, an older person, or a younger person wanting freedom from discrimination on the basis of age. And I would be shocked if at some point in your life and in my life, we didn't all have that feeling that Patrick Henry had about something in our lives where we wanted this modicum, this little piece of daylight when we felt we were being confined. Because confinement does something to people. When they feel those walls are closing in and they are trapped, the human spirit is diminished. The scriptures have a lot to say about liberty. And for my money, there is no passage in the entire New Testament, maybe the entire Bible, that speaks more loudly and more accurately to what we're facing today than the passage that Karen so ably read this morning. All of us, I believe all of us, and it doesn't matter whether you vote blue politically or red politically or purple or whatever, I think each of us are concerned about freedom, or concerned about liberty. It goes across ideologies. And if you are concerned, if you feel this way, I think this passage this morning is something that will speak to you and offer some sort of hope. Listen to the first words of our passage. Galatians chapter 5, verse 13a says this, quote, "You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free." We're called to be free. In other words, what this is intimating is sort of the Pauline view that freedom is both God's idea and God's intent for us. We celebrate the 4th of July this week. And I think historically you can make a pretty good argument that the forebears of our country, the founders of our country, believed that freedom was God's idea and God's intent too. And if you haven't already seen it in print as a prelude to the 4th of July, I'm betting dollars to donuts you will see it sometime this week. And I'm referring to the preamble of the Declaration of Independence. And I think the ideas that Paul is putting forth in our passage this morning, we actually see in the preamble to one of the greatest documents that has ever been produced. Because in that document, they reference their perception that our Creator cares about our freedom and intends our freedom. Here's how they thought it through theologically. Quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, women, children, people, are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights." And in the document, that word rights is capitalized. That among these are life, and then right after life itself, what is mentioned? Liberty. And the pursuit of happiness. I think it's fascinating that when we look historically, even on the Jefferson Memorial, we read the words attributed to Jefferson himself, which are these, quote, "The God who gave us life gave us liberty at the same time." And I think this is exactly what we are seeing in our scripture passage this morning. That freedom is God's idea and God's intent. And I think then it begs a question. And the question I think it begs is, well, is it just freedom for freedom's sake? Or is there a purpose beyond the freedom? Is it just to say, hey, we're free? Or is it we're free for something? Galatians, this is where our passage goes next. The entire verse 13, Galatians chapter 5. Quote, "You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love." Folks, whatever happened to humility? I don't know about you, but in watching the debates, for me, the point that most spoke to me was when the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, said, with regards to a racial issue, I didn't get it done. Sometimes humility is where God would have us to go. And I don't care where you lean politically, but I think when we think that we always have to defend our position instead of reaching over and saying, tell me more about them, that we have lost our way. Serve one another humbly in love. And so what I want to say, and what I think we need to hear, is that it isn't just liberty for liberty's sake. It isn't just freedom for freedom's sake. It's a freedom for. You know, I have a lot of respect for libertarians. I have. I share a portion of their views, but I get the sense, or let me say my one reservation, is that I get the sense that primarily they're interested in liberty for liberty's sake. And it would seem that the scriptures are all for liberty, but the liberty is not solely an inwardly focused thing where we're simply saying, I'm free, but rather, I am free for. One of the things that we've pointed to numerous times since I've been pastor, and we'll point to it numerous times more, is Jesus' conversation with the expert in the law. The one who asked Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? Jesus said, love God, love your neighbor. You should try to love yourself. And this is where the passage goes next. Galatians chapter 5, verses 13 and 14. You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free. But do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love. For the entire law is fulfilled in the keeping of this one command. Love your neighbor as yourself. In essence, what we're seeing here is what St. Francis of Assisi said. It's in giving that we receive. Nowhere have I seen this clearer than when I have taken someone to a developing country on a work tour. Invariably, if I take someone on a work tour for the first time, they're thinking about what they can contribute, what they can give, and whether it's building a water system or constructing a school or constructing a hospital or rebuilding a church after a hurricane or an earthquake or a tsunami. And going down, the conversation is all about what they're bringing to the table. But the amazing thing is the trip back. Over and over and over again, I've heard from these first-timers on the way home. I got so much more than I gave. I got so much more than I gave. And I think this is like Jesus said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. And you know that the word blessed in the Greek, in the original language, means happier. It's happier to give than to receive. We've got it all wrong. We've got it mixed around in this culture where we think it's me, mine. I'm number one. Us first. Jesus would say, no. Paul would say, no. It's happier to give than to receive. It is the way that God has created us. It's no mistake that the most famous verse in all of the Bible is, for God so loved the world that he
gave his only begotten Son.
The beauty of our passage today is that I think it anticipates how difficult it is for us as human beings to maintain this giving spirit. We get drained, don't we? You know, we have that wonderful phrase, no good deed goes unpunished. And we've all been there. We have felt it. You know, we have given our heart and soul on something, and we just feel, you know, we have had the plug pulled on us. You know how easy it is to be lured by the flirtatious nature of taking. Of living up to that question, what's in it for me? And when we do this as individuals or as a country, it sends us in a direction that the Scriptures warn us about. Listen again to the entire passage of our Scripture this morning. Galatians chapter 5, verses 13 through 15. You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free. But do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love. For the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one command: love your neighbor as yourself. If you bite and devour each other, watch out, or you will be destroyed by each other. Unfortunately, at this era and time, we have become very proficient at fighting one another. It's a national and maybe an international epidemic. The fact of the matter is, when we see it in Washington or other places of power, we should be resisting it with every fiber of our being. This nastiness, this name calling, it has no place for a Christian. It has no place for someone who tells us that the first thing we should be doing is loving one another and even praying for our enemies, as my wonderful colleague referenced this morning. Folks, we don't need to adopt secular society. We need to grab firm at principles that are far beyond even our capability. But God puts them there, so we'll reach for them. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time that we go back to our roots as a giving and a loving people. A people who at one time took great pride in a monument that has etched into its side these words: "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." Hard? Yeah. Kind of like love. Kind of like serving people. Kind of like what God's calling us to do in this passage. You think about that. Let's pray. Oh God, we can't escape it. Over and over and over and over and over again, in your word, you call us to love. We'd like to do it. But the cost seems to be so almost as high as not doing it. So Lord, show us how. For your sake, for our sake, for the world's sake. In Jesus' name.
Liberty, of
as we give God thanks for our blessings, for the freedoms that we enjoy, and for the responsibilities that freedom entails. I would ask that we would bring forth our offerings, our pledges, our tithes. The ushers, please come forward. Thanksgiving for your blessings, O Lord, on us as a people, as a nation, as a church, as individuals. We bring these gifts, and may they be used, O Lord, to spread the good news of your love in word and in deed. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
these doors. I'll be there or the back door, and Sheldon will be guarding the doors. Nobody goes without a handshake, so or a hug. We hope you'll join us. Bob and Barbara Simmons and Faye Rogers have been setting a beautiful table out there, and we hope you'll join us for some good food, good conversation directly following the benediction. Hear now these words. And now go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what's good. Return no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor people. Love the unloved. Most of all, serve the Lord.